Chitananda here. I'm at Monterey Bay Aquarium in California, just south of San Francisco, a couple hours south. And coming back on our topic of last weekend, where I was talking about worlds within the tide pools. Well, here I am with a closer look of what's going on in tide pools on a much closer level. So when you look at this aquarium, you're only going to see a certain amount of things at first. But the more time you spend here, you're going to see 1,000 things. And if you're curious about what that thing is going up and down, that's a camera for people to get a closer look at everything. So here you have seagrass, the green stuff. You have a purple or pink type of algae. You have another green type of algae here. You have a type of kelp, which is also a type of algae. And then here are little starfish tentacles. So these are probably called brittle stars, and they have a center body, circular, and they have 5 arms coming off of them. And if you look closely, there's a bunch of them. So there's like at least 2 or 3 there with their arms sticking up. And if you look closer at each arm, each one has like little cilia type hair structures that move on the arm itself. I assume they're pulling stuff out of the ocean for food. This is a mussel here. If you can see it, it's black. It's similar to a clam. Multiple types more algae. What is this black stuff here? Right there, what is that? Hey, there's a fish right there. Didn't even notice that at first for like about 10 minutes as I was looking. I'm trying to show you another fish. Get a little closer. Oops. Get a little closer look. So yeah, he's right there. Little fish disguised. That there is a sea anemone. We saw those when I was at Santa Cruz last week, and they were much larger there. Here it's pretty tiny. It's a different type with a beautiful bright pink color. And then we have abalone. There are people all around the world that eat abalone. So that is a soft creature inside, part of the mollusk family, and that is the abalone shell. Native Americans and others have used these shells for decoration because on the inside it's very beautiful. I've been here for 10 minutes and I haven't noticed this guy yet, and he's got some kind of tentacle coming out. Actually, for the first time in my whole life, I'm seeing what goes on inside of a limpet shell. So that shell there is a limpet. Most of the time I see them stuck to the rocks, and I rarely ever see them move at all. In fact, I've never seen them move before. And we're seeing something like a little foot coming out of the front, or some sort of sensor. And it looks like his mouth and head, and maybe he's feeding on the algae. So, being interested in worlds within worlds, being open to discover something you've never seen before. Like, I've been coming to the tide pools for 20 plus years now, and I tend to see something new every time. Whether it's at the aquarium or out in the actual tide pools in nature. And that's a miracle. And how many of us are so stuck in our minds that we never look closer, that we don't notice closer? If you can notice closer in nature, then you can start to notice closer in your own mind. That is what mindfulness is. And we can go deeper into mindfulness little by little over the course of many years. And as we go into mindfulness, we also drop suffering little by little. Drop by drop, the bucket fills to the top. That's what the Buddha said. So that's a lesson on tide pools and Buddhism, all in one. See you in the next one. So here's something that most people wouldn't notice right away. First you see these strawberry anemones, and you're like, oh, it's a rock that they're sitting on. Like, that's normally what they anchor to, are rocks. But if you look closer, that's actually a sea cucumber. It's a soft body animal. One side of is his mouth, and the other side is the other side. And they're all just stuck to this guy and probably just benefiting from his own food that he's bringing into the sea cucumber. And earlier I was showing you these hairy type arms coming out of the rock, and now we can see the entire creature. We have multiple brittle stars. You can see the circular center right there, and then it has 5 arms coming off of its center, and we have a whole bunch of them here. More strawberry sea anemones. And you can get a closer look that normally you'll just see their tops like this, but this is a side view of them, and you can actually see they're quite long underneath. You could call that their neck. Their neck is quite long, but usually that's hidden within the rocks. Here we have barnacles. I rarely get to see them fan out their tongue-like. You can think of this as like a tongue, multiple stranded tongue. And they're filter feeding. They're pulling plankton out of the ocean. So there's one right there, and right there. This is a metal rendition of what a barnacle looks like when it's on the rocks outside of the water. The tides go up and down, so you'll see these above water, and you'll also see them below water. And this is a different type of barnacle, but this is another kind of barnacle as compared to the model that I just showed you stuck on the rock there. And then there's also gooseneck barnacles. I don't think I'm seeing them in this tank. I can show you in the other tank. So I'm noticing even more things as I look in this section of the same tank that I showed you earlier. This fish here, let's see where this guy, you'll see on his left cheek that it's expanding and contracting. That's his gills. So he's breathing out of that side, but he's not breathing out of the other side. And that's just interesting. I would be curious to know what reason they might have for doing it that way. Also, there's a hermit crab, and he's right here. Hermit crab is a crab that does not have its own shell, and it'll take up the shell of a turban snail in this case. It'll actually it'll find shells that are missing an animal, and it will trade one shell for another. And the way I know it's a hermit crab and not a turban snail is, let's see if the camera, those little hairs there, that's actually his little feet and his little tentacles sticking out. And he was just up here on the rock, and then he came down here. So I actually didn't notice him for quite a while. Oh, in fact, I didn't notice this guy for that matter. So that's another hermit crab hanging out in I believe that's called a turban snail shell. And this is also a snail shell, but it's been covered over in algae, and I don't know if it's alive or dead. But yeah, when you look closer, you see all kinds of cool things. And then here we have chitin. It has multiple plates, and it is also a mollusk, and it sucks itself to the rock. I have never seen them move. They just tend to hang out stationary most of the time, it seems. And then on the back, we have mussels on the rock there. We have gooseneck barnacles. Let me get a closer view for you. And this is another type of barnacle. They feed in a very similar way with those fanning tongues that come out and filter feed on the ocean. This guy here. So yeah, I love it. Worlds within worlds.